So imagine this scenario for a second. You've just landed the massive promotion that you've been chasing for, say, 5 years.
Oh, yeah, the big one.
Right, the big one. You are finally in the big chair,
Right.
and you're sitting there in a meeting, or maybe you're just at your desk reading a report, and you make a sound.
Just a noise.
Exactly, just a casual, low volume, You didn't even mean anything by it. Maybe you were clearing your throat, or you saw a typo in the document.
Yay.
But suddenly you look up, and the team Slack channel has completely gone to DEFCON 2.
Total panic. Theories are just flying everywhere. People are typing, why did they say, or is the whole project canceled?
We're all getting fired.
Yes. It's a full-blown crisis over a throat clear.
It really is. And it's a terrifying moment because you realize that, well, while you are the exact same person you were yesterday, you wear the same clothes, you have the same sense of humor, the actual physics of how you are heard have completely changed.
It's like someone snuck in while you were sleeping and cranked the volume on your microphone all the way up to 11.
That is the perfect metaphor. And that is exactly what we are unpacking today. Welcome to our deep dive. I'm your host, and joined as always by our resident expert, we are digging into a really sharp piece from the team at Stellapop.
Yeah, it's called Communicating as an Executive. Tips to help you not stink.
Which, honestly, is a noble goal for all of us. I think we all want to not stink.
Definitely. But it's important to note this isn't just about public speaking or, polishing your PowerPoint skills. It is much more fundamental than that.
Right. The core mission of this deep dive is to explore that exact phenomenon we just described. The way a promotion changes the sheer weight of your words. It's not that the job itself changed that much day to day, but that the mic got turn in T, as the source puts it.
I love that phrasing. The mic got turned in. It really captures the sudden energy shift perfectly. Today, we're going to look at why this happens, what we can call the executive communication paradox, and then we're going to walk through 5 very specific, actionable strategies to handle that new volume without, blowing out the speakers.
So let's start with this paradox, because I think a lot of new leaders, or honestly even experienced ones, they fall into this trap. They think, hey, I'm still me. I'm just one of the gang.
Sure.
They want to be authentic, so they just chat freely like they always did.
And that desire for authenticity is good, but the source makes a really crucial distinction here. The higher you go in leadership, the more meaning is attached to literally everything you say. And here is the kicker. Even what you don't say suddenly has mass.
Wait, the silence is loud too.
Extremely loud. In executive leadership, your words aren't just heard anymore. They are analyzed, they are interpreted, and most dangerously, they are acted upon.
The source gives this great example that I think everyone has experienced from one side of the desk or the other. The leader makes a quick quip, something like, hey, maybe we should partner up with company X. Just a totally throwaway thought.
Right, just a synapse firing. A brainwave while you're drinking your morning coffee.
But the team, they don't hear a brainwave. They hear a mandate.
Oh, absolutely.
They scramble. They stay late. They put together a 40-page proposal. And a week later, the leader's like, whoa, why did you guys do all this? I was just thinking out loud.
Precisely. And that right there is the paradox. You feel like you are just exploring ideas, which you should be able to do as a human being. But the team hears an official directive.
Yeah.
This creates massive anxiety and misalignment. If you don't realize your volume is turned up, you are going to accidentally cause chaos.
It creates a lot of waste, too, right? I mean, all those hours spent on a project that wasn't even real.
Exactly. It burns through team resources. So the big question is, how do we fix it? Because we can't just stop having ideas. You can't become a robot just because you got promoted.
No, absolutely not. But you do have to change how you deliver those ideas. Which brings us nicely to the first strategy from Stellapop deliberate communication. Or, as I like to think of it, tagging your talk.
Tagging your talk. It sounds like adding metadata to your mouth.
That is exactly what it is. The core principle here is to say less, but mean more. You need to verbally signal, like literally label what kind of conversation you are having before the actual content leaves your mouth.
So instead of just blurting out the idea, you put a warning label on it first.
Yes. The force suggests using really specific phrases. If you are just brainstorming, you explicitly say, I am just thinking out loud here. This is not a directive, right before you share the idea.
Versus saying something like, decision, let's do this.
Exactly. You have to categorize the statement for the listener so they know how to file it in their brain. Is this a do now thing, a think about thing, or a please ignore this, I'm just venting thing.
It sounds so simple, almost rudimentary, but I feel like so few leaders actually do this in practice. They just speak and assume the context is obvious to everyone else, mostly because it's obvious inside their own head.
And it rarely is. Context collapse is real. And there's another part to this first strategy that is really important, which is restraint. The source strongly advises that if you aren't completely sure whether to say something, lean toward restraint.
The old when in doubt, zip it rule.
Well, yeah, think about the bell analogy. You can always share your thoughts later when you have more clarity. But you can't unring the bell if you speak too soon.
That's so true.
Once that anxiety is released into the ecosystem, once you've mentioned a potential merger or restructure casually in the hallway, it is very, very hard to reel it back in.
That is huge. It's all about impulse control. It reminds me of that saying, a leader's whisper is a shout. You really have to be careful what you whisper.
So strategy 1 is tagging your talk. Let's move to strategy 2. Now this one seems like marketing 101, but applied to internal comms. It's called the litmus test.
This one is critical. Before you communicate anything significant, whether it's a Slack message, a company-wide email, or a town hall speech, the source suggests running it through a 3-question filter.
Okay, walk us through the questions.
Question 1 is simply, who is my audience? Are you talking to your direct reports, the board of directors, or is this an all-hands meeting with the whole company?
Because you definitely cannot talk to the board the exact same way you talk to your engineering team.
Exactly. The language, the concerns, the depth of detail, it all shifts. Then there's question 2, which is, what matters to them most? Not what matters to you. What matters to them?
That requires a bit of empathy, doesn't it? You have to get out of your own head for a minute.
It does. And finally, question 3. What do I want them to think, feel, and do after this?
Think, feel, and do. I love that framework. It's very action-oriented. Usually we just focus on what do I want to say.
Right. What do I want to get off my chest is the wrong starting point entirely. Think, feel, do forces you to be intentional. If you answer those questions, you realize that the exact same piece of news needs to be reframed entirely depending on who is in the room.
Can you give us an example of how that reframing works?
Sure. Let's say you have a delay in a major product launch. If you tell the board the product is delayed, you focus on financial impact and risk mitigation because they care about the bottom line.
Right.
But if you tell the developers about the delay, you focus on quality control and maybe alleviating their crunch time. They care about the work itself and their weekend. Same underlying fact, totally different wrapper.
Yeah, if you just copy-paste the board version to the developers, you sound completely cold.
Right.
And if you send the developer version to the board, you sound like you're way too deep in the weeds.
Exactly. If you don't know what matters to the specific audience, you are just making noise. And noise creates confusion.
Okay, let's get into strategy 3. This one is actually my personal favorite because the title is just hilarious. Muzzle your mouth.
It is pretty blunt, isn't it? But very necessary. This is about pure impulse control.
The source brings up the mid-meeting idea. And look, we have all been there. You were in a meeting about, say, quarterly budgets, pretty dry stuff, and suddenly you get a flash of inspiration about a brand new marketing campaign.
And the temptation is to blurt it out immediately. It feels exciting. It feels fresh. The dopamine hits.
But the source says park it.
Park it and write it down. You have to ask yourself a filter question right in that moment. Does this move the agenda for today forward, or am I creating a side quest?
A side quest. I feel so seen by that. I think I have created a lot of accidental side quests in my career.
We all have, trust me. But as an executive, a side quest isn't just a fun distraction. It's a literal resource drain. If you derail a budget meeting for a new marketing idea, you are wasting everyone's time and signaling that the original agenda didn't really matter.
But wait, playing devil's advocate here, isn't that just bureaucracy? Isn't business agility all about acting on new ideas fast?
That's the trap people fall into. Agility is about moving quickly in a concerted, unified direction. Chasing every single butterfly that crosses your path is just chaos.
Yeah, fair point.
And there is a hidden benefit to waiting. The expert insight here is that letting an idea percolate almost always results in a better idea anyway. If you write it down and wait 24 hours, you can share a tighter, cleaner version with actual context later.
So it's not about stifling your creativity at all. You aren't being less authentic.
No, you are stewarding your ideas well. That is the key phrase. You are treating your ideas with enough respect to present them properly, rather than just throwing them at the wall to see if they stick.
I really like that distinction. Stewardship versus just spraying information. It sounds much more professional, too.
It builds trust. People trust a leader who speaks with intention way more than one who speaks with impulse.
Okay, that brings us to strategy 4, which connects really well with stewardship. It's called Become a Master Framer.
Framing is everything. It's the lens through which you want people to view the information. How you introduce an idea entirely shapes how people process it. It's like putting a picture in a physical frame. The frame tells you where to look and how to interpret what you are seeing.
The source gives some specific scripts for this, which I think are absolute gold, especially for complex situations where people might be nervous. Because we know when there's a void of information, people usually fill it with fear.
Right. Let's look at uncertainty, for instance. This is usually the hardest one. Leaders are often terrified to say they don't know something. They think it makes them look weak or incompetent.
Yeah.
But a master framer says, here is what we know for sure, and here is what is unclear.
Wow, that is so grounding. It instantly lowers the blood pressure in the room.
It really does. It defines the edges of the problem, so it's not just this infinite, scary unknown. Or take decision-making. Instead of just announcing a choice out of nowhere, you frame it. You say, we are choosing A over B because of X, Y, and Z.
It shows the math behind the decision.
Exactly. And for discovery phases, you say, we don't have all the answers yet, so let's do this specific thing to find them.
Mm-hmm.
It turns the uncertainty into a concrete plan.
It seems like the common thread through all of these scripts is structure.
It is. Structure creates safety. When a leader communicates with clear framing, the team knows the boundaries. They know the logic. When a leader just rambles, the team has to guess the logic, and honestly, they usually guess wrong.
Okay, we are coming down to the final strategy, strategy 5. And this one uses a metaphor I think is really cool. Wind tunnel that message.
Yes. Think about it. If you are building a Formula One car, you don't just build it and immediately drive it onto the track at 200 miles per hour. You put it in a wind tunnel first to see exactly where the drag is.
So before you send that high-stakes email or give that big restructuring speech, you need to wind tunnel it.
Exactly. You run the message by someone you trust. But, and this is a really big but, it has to be the right person.
Right, you can't just ask the person who agrees with everything you say. The yes man isn't going to help you here.
No, vague praise is completely useless in a wind tunnel. You need a truth teller. And the source gives 3 specific questions to ask your test audience. First, what is crystal clear here? You need to know what actually landed the way you intended.
And then the opposite, right? Is there anything that's muddy?
Yes. And the most important one, the real killer question is, am I making any assumptions that might not be shared?
That's the big one. Because executives often live in a total bubble of information. They just assume everyone has the same high-level context they do.
And they almost never do. The wind tunnel reveals those blind spots before you go public and cause a panic.
Okay, so you run the test. You get this feedback. You find out what's muddy. You find your assumptions. Now comes the hard part. The source has a very specific rule for the editing phase.
The cut 20% rule.
Oof, that hurts. I feel like every word I write is precious.
It does hurt, but it is entirely necessary. The motto here is that tight and clear beats clever every single time. We so often clutter our communication with over-explanations, justifications, or flowery corporate language. Cutting 20% forces you to get straight to the point.
It's the difference between a laser and a light bulb. Both have energy, but only one cuts through. So those are the 5 strategies. Tag your talk, know your audience, muzzle your mouth, frame the message, and wind tunnel it.
But the source mentions one more thing that I think underpins all of this. We touched on it briefly right at the beginning, the power of silence.
Yes. Strategic silence.
Why is silence so hard for leaders? Is it just the awkwardness of a quiet room?
It's partly the awkwardness, sure, but it's mostly that we equate leadership with action, and we equate talking with action. We think if we aren't talking, we aren't leading the room. But the source argues that knowing when not to speak is actually just as powerful.
What are the actual benefits listed? Because shutting up can sometimes feel like you're just doing nothing.
Well, first off, it allows room for the team to think and contribute. If you are always talking, you are sucking all the oxygen out of the room. Silence literally invites others in.
And I guess it goes back to that blessing half-baked ideas problem we talked about earlier.
Right. If you stay silent, you prevent yourself from accidentally validating a project that isn't ready. But the biggest benefit of all is that silence signals deep confidence. That's a bit counterintuitive. Explain that.
Think about the insecure leaders you've known in your career. They ramble. They talk to fill the void. They talk just to prove they are smart. A leader who is comfortable with silence shows they are thoughtful, They're actively listening, and they're in control. They don't need to dominate the airwaves to be the leader. They just naturally have executive presence.
That connects really well to the final point in the piece about modeling culture, what they call the ripple effect.
This is where we have to zoom out. Your communication style doesn't just affect you and your immediate day. It sets the weather for the entire organization.
Yeah, the source explicitly says the team doesn't copy their office mate, they copy the leader.
Exactly. So if you go around spraying ideas like confetti scattering focus, blurring lines, creating side quests every Tuesday, guess what your team will start doing?
They'll do the exact same thing. They'll just think that's how business is done here. It'll be pure chaos down the line.
Exactly. But the positive visualization is true too. If you are disciplined, if you are precise, if you respect people's time by parking your impulses, the leadership culture follows suit. You create a culture of clarity.
It's really empowering to think about it that way. You aren't just fixing your own emails or your own meeting habits. You're literally fixing the company's operating system.
Absolutely. Executive communication isn't about caring less or being cold. It's about caring enough to actually do the work, to choose the right words for the right moment, for the right people.
Say less, signal more, and watch the magic happen.
That's the goal.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, let's recap the big takeaway. You got the promotion, the mic is turned up, you have to respect the volume.
Yes. And if you take nothing else away from today, take the final practical tip from the source. If you really must think out loud, try doing it on paper first.
I love that. That is going on a sticky note on my monitor today. Do it on paper first. It saves so much trouble.
It really does.
Any final thoughts for our listeners before we sign off?
I would leave you with this question to mull over. We talked about how silence signals confidence. So ask yourself honestly, are you sometimes talking just to prove you're in the room? How much power are you actually giving away by refusing to utilize silence?
Oh, that is a tough one to look in the mirror on. But that is exactly why we do this. Thank you for taking the time to join us for this deep dive. We will catch you on the next one.